Hello, Autumn.
Hi, Ran.
Autumn, what would you like to talk about today?
Okay, I'm going to need some help maybe trying to articulate this, but I'm interested in following this idea of making more of a commitment, of maybe becoming ordaining myself as a Buddhist priest. And so the question and the issue for me is, you know, how do I keep my relationship and my world that I have now, and what does that mean, and how do the two fit together?
So are you sometimes concerned that the possible sacrifice that you will have to make is something that would not be possible for you? Or you would not be willing to do?
Yeah, I concerned, more just curious. Concerned is a strong word, so I don't. It's not so. Yes, maybe it is. It's It seems like it comes down to taking the step. Just kind of making a commitment instead of just staying in the safety zone of it being in my mind. It's like getting more proactive. In other words, one thing that happened I got introduced last spring to a woman who lives in the area who is in fact a Buddhist priest, and so I kept making arrangements to get together with her to have this conversation, actually, to find out what do I do now. And we had a couple of attempts to get together, and then because of my condition, my health problems, I couldn't. I had to cancel appointments. She went away to Japan, so we never made it happen.
So what is it that attracts you to becoming a priest, or meditation, or all this field?
I think the part about the priest is I see a need. I see a need for people to have some counseling, some person who can be help facilitate, whether it's through when someone dies, or there's some conflict in the community, or in a relationship, in a family, to have some kind of platform, some kind of guide for
So you would have liked to be such a guide?
Yes, sometimes I feel called to that.
So far, if I understand correctly, so far you have had a lot of meditative practice,
yes,
right? Can you say a few words about it? What was meaningful in that?
Yeah. I think what I appreciate about it is for me, it's not a dogma. It's really a very practical technique that distills, for me, it's an experience of letting the sediment of my mind and thoughts just kind of shed.
Is it because in a life without that meditative aspect there are too many sediments in your mind?
Life without the meditation doesn't feel, it feels disconnected.
So the connectedness comes from
Yep,
going inside?
The dot, yep. It starts to feel. And then what's really fascinating for me, Ron, is that the right choices that become it's not so complicated. It's not like I really notice that when it comes to, and these are very simple examples, but you're driving on the road and somebody comes in here,
right.
and instead of like, oh my God, the fucking asshole, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, you want to come here? No problem. You step back.
So, as a consequence, you now practice meditation every day. Can you tell a bit about your practice?
The practice? Well, I am fortunate in that I have the opportunity to focus on myself and my life, right? Because I'm not employed. So I'm not consistent with the time. Like, for example, when I go to a retreat, at 4:30 the bell rings and you're sitting on your cushion, I don't have that consistent time. But every morning, depending on the flow, I get into my cave and I sit. And it depends, maybe it's anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes.
How come you said that in 2000 you sort of retreated from the world?
That's the good definition of it. Yep.
And went back home to your parents' house in California.
Yeah.
And how was it to return to the world? Are you back in the world now? Are you involved? Do you have friends? do you work? Do you have a career? Do you have hopes?
Well, this is what I think is I occasionally I'll get that moment of reflection where I can see and gauge and make a comparison of then versus now. Let's see, 2 years ago, was awarded Social Security insurance to help me. It's a disability, what do you call it? Program or something like that. So I'm able to. I get a monthly income, and that's not a lot of money, but it's enough for me in this situation to survive. And so it takes a huge pressure that before I didn't have that, so it was quite stressful, to deal with not having the means to support myself. And so now I have the support, and it's brought the quality of my life up so much, because I couldn't live here if I didn't have an income.
So do you feel disconnected from the world?
I don't really feel that disconnected from the world. And that's an interesting phenomenon in a way. I mean, occasionally I will feel left out. And but for one thing, I live somewhat of a solitary life, so I'm not really involved with a lot of people. So I'm not. It's not. In a way, I have my. Well, how do you describe that?
Your little corner.
My corner, and
So, do you feel sometimes lonely, or is that situation?
I get lonely, I get isolated. There's definitely feelings of sometimes really being isolated.
And your thoughts about becoming a priest, are they related to going out of your little corner to connect to the world more fully?
Yeah, they are. And also to take this experience that I've had and for better, I was going to say for better, for worse. I don't know why I even would use that expression, but maybe just to I think it goes back to making a bigger commitment. Making a bigger commitment.
It's interesting that several things that you said so far are connected to the relationship between your inner world and the world out there. That on the one hand, this inner world, inside, going inside, meditating, is important and it's meaningful. You said before that without it, life would be that's my expression, not anchored in anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not that you throw away the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy the relationship with the therapist. Sometimes you feel lonely.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking of somehow getting back to the world, coming back and giving the world, or at least interacting with the world through being a priest. And it strikes me that it's similar. Perhaps it is also symbolized in a small event that happened this morning between us, that we said that we'd meet at 10 to 10:30, and at 10 o'clock you call me and you say, I'll do a meditation, and then I'll come at 10:45.
Yeah.
Right? And you came at 11.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
So
that's it.
it's this inner world, this meditation, versus the outer world, which in this case was me in our meeting.
That's exactly it. And before I got the disability insurance, I was involved in with the Central Vermont Vocational Rehab, and we were working, actually trying to develop a career, what do we want to call it, map in a way. And I have to tell you, that's a whole nother experience, but it was a little, I would say, pretty discouraging and very depressing, in fact.
Why is that?
Well, for one thing, it's hard to, like, they would ask, they would consistently ask, well, what do you want to do? And the reason I was there is because I really didn't know what to do. I was at that place where, I'm 51. It's hard to survive on, plus the with farm work that I had been doing for many years, and it's just not. It was too inconsistent, which is one of the problems, right?
Do you do also work on yourself during the rest of the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you actually do most of the time.
Yeah, it's a full-time occupation.
So you are involved in a full-time occupation, in looking inside, developing yourself inside, understanding yourself.
And trying to pay attention to the triggers when I'm getting stressed, sitting over there with you at the table, with the light coming in, stressful. Okay, gotta find another, figure out a solution.
Does this happen also when you go out, let's say?
Absolutely.
So you notice
everything.
What is happening, what she's saying to you, what you're answering, things of that sort?
I don't have it. I'm not so much aware. It's more the physical sensations. I'm not always aware. It's how, I can, in retrospect, I will be able to think, okay, that energy wasn't good for me, but it's more the...
your body?
It is more that.
So when you go out, or when you sit in your room, or when you walk around, take a walk, you often look at your body, or aware of your body, the energies in your body? Yeah. And that's a lot of your focus during the day.
Absolutely. And the sensation, like if I feel neck, right around the base of my neck, it's usually a sign that, I have to be, we don't want to, we just pray,